action items. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to list item 8, and then we're going to say A, and then we need motions on what we're doing now. So our next item is 8A. We need a motion. If you would just read out the motion. Or read it out and make a motion.
I'll make a motion we approve UBS resolution to authorize representative.
I second that.
Any questions or comments?
Ms. Sasha, would you just briefly explain what that is?
We have an investment, and it's required that we are all a part of that, and with 3 new board members. We did this earlier back in the fall when it came to our attention, so we are just updating the current information. And it's for a scholarship at the high school.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Is there, all opposed? No opposed. Okay, the next item is 8B.
I move we approve the 2017-2018 non-resident people contracts.
I second.
Are there any questions or comments? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So the next item is 8C. Need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the advertisement of an RFP for audit services. I'll second it.
Any questions or comments?
We'll just get the proposal.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item 8D. Need a motion.
I move we established an attract, recruit, and retain staff committee.
Need a second?
I second.
Okay, is there any questions or comments? So we need to appoint or have volunteers for this committee from the board.
Could you clarify for the people?
Okay, what this is then? You want to?
Yes, the new a board member approached me about just what this committee is. We talk about this a lot: attract, retain, and recruit staff. We feel like that we need to establish a committee to look at all pieces and parts of what it takes to ensure that we attract, retain, and recruit staff members. And that can be everything from the climate and culture in a building to the salary schedule. And so I would think that every school would need to be represented, as well as in every different staff member in different roles would also be represented. So that would be a teacher's aide, a teacher, a custodian, bus driver, cafeteria, staff, support staff. We want to make sure that everyone's represented, because we want to know what does it take to ensure that we continue to make progress in Marion County Public Schools. And the way that happens is with staff. For example, the bus driver's the first person they see and the last person they see. That's just one of many examples.
So are you saying then that we need that many people on this committee then? Or you're just wanting to make sure we have a representative from each? Or the board?
Well, obviously the committee needs to be established, and then I would want to ensure that everyone's represented. You wouldn't want just a particular staff group represented. You would want to do that, and you don't want a committee so large that you can't get anything finished.
Right. So I know from I think that we have a couple of people that are interested in being on this committee. So
Yeah, I'll be on
okay. So we have Brad and Peggy.
That suits me just fine.
That suits me just fine too.
Carrie, does it suit you just fine?
Sounds perfect.
All right,
Well, why don't we have Brad and Peggy sit down with the superintendent and put together a proposed roster of folks that we're going to invite. We'll establish a committee tonight, and at the next meeting they can report back and we can approve committee membership.
Sounds perfect.
Sounds perfect to me.
You guys can work with Ms. Slosher figure out who these representatives are that need to be part of this, and that way we can move forward.
Okay, so we need to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No opposed. Item 8E. Need a motion. Make a motion to consider replacement of board member representative for the local planning committee. Need a second.
I'll second.
Questions or comments? Okay, so what this means is, right now, we need a board member, and Mike Cecil was on that committee, so I would make a recommendation that Kalen Reed would be on this committee, because he did a lot of work for where we're at now, so that's what I would recommend. That's up to him to say whether he will or not.
Is that something you're willing to take on?
I'm willing to do it. If anyone else wants to do it, I would gladly concede.
I would support Kate.
Sorry, Kalen.
It's sort of like when they say, everybody step forward, everybody step back.
Yeah, that's just like.
No, I would gladly accept that
Okay.
position if the rest of the board.
Okay, so we need a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All, any opposed? No opposed. Zero. Item 8F. I guess, what we just did.
No.
Consider approval of local planning committee to reconvene to revise the current district facilities plan due to nickel proceeds.
Could you explain that?
I need a second.
I think we need a second. Okay.
Butch.
Yeah. Right. I made the motion. David, second.
The board has to reconvene the local planning committee. And the reason we are even reconvening is because there's going to be a change. With the nickel tax, now we have revenue. The current facilities plan was developed with very little bonding potential. So just one of the requirements is that we will, we need the board's approval to reconvene that planning committee.
And I'd like to make a suggestion that once we have this committee, that the board gets who they are. Sure. Send us an email or something.
And Scott will verify what I'm saying is this committee it's back actually detailed out how many and who is actually on the committee.
There's several subcommittees that make up this committee, including teachers, parents, superintendent, facilities director, central office, community members, local planning, zoning member, and the number of schools dictate how large this committee is. There's 20 people, but the number of schools we have requires 20 people. The superintendent is pretty much an advisee. There's a non-voting on it. When we did this plan, every 4 years, each school district is required to do this plan. It becomes kind of your Bible to facilities for the next 4 years. And when you create this committee, it's a 4-year term. But when people were no longer eligible due to the subcommittee requirements, then we had to replace them. When we did this in 2015, it was the last time we'd done this. When we submitted this to KDE, I got a phone call and said, "Why don't you have new buildings on this plan?" I sold it to them as we don't have the money to build new buildings, you know, so it's not very realistic. So they approved it with the understanding that if and when we did have any new revenues available to do something, that we would reconvene this committee and redevelop the plan according to the funding sources available. So that's where we're at.
And so like this committee, there are certain criteria you have to meet before you can propose a new building. You can't just say, oh, we want a new building. Like you have to certify that certain major components of the building or have a certain age about it, and you can't just say, oh, we want a new building. So that's the purpose, and we'll hopefully have the help of the architect firm to go through and talk about which of our buildings, which of our facilities qualify for a proposal to make a new building, and which ones are more properly addressed with a renovation type project or whatever. So it's not like we're not just drawing up plays in the dirt here. There's specific criteria you have to meet before you can add a building to your
And
facility.
once this plan is revised, it comes back to you all to be approved before it goes to state level.
So I've got a question then
Sure.
too. So this was in 2015, so now we're 2017, but now we have the nickel win. What's the timeframe with
Well,
the
start,
committee getting back to the board?
I would think we'll probably start the next 4 to 6 weeks, if not sooner, to start revising, meeting and going over the existing plan and throwing ideas out among those 20 people of what next steps are. So the next actual big plan is not due to 2019. All we're going to do is go back and make adjustments to the current plan. We're not doing the whole thing over. We're not scrapping it, starting new. We're just taking the existing plan and adjusting it according to what our revenue matches up now.
Is this committee already set? Other
It is.
than
It is.
Caitlin's, was it other than his request?
Sure, there's only a few, like I said,
Yeah, we
because
got
of
some
roles
other
and responsibility changes, we had to meet the criteria of the subcommittee. Like I said,
So now it's set.
it's set, it's a 4-year committee, and then when you have, let's say that during the course of time, during the 4 years, something happens that you didn't have on that plan, you can come back and make amendments, you get money available, you can come back and make amendments to it. It's a 4-year plan, we're just making adjustments to that.
So you know for sure that the people that are on it now are the ones who
Sure.
still going to be?
Sure. Yeah,
Well,
like the
we
ones that meet the
haven't-
criteria
Yes,
of the
of
subgroups.
But we've not reached out. But
Sure.
I would anticipate with the additional revenue, they're going to be excited about being a part of.
Yeah,
I would,
they can do something.
But like, for instance, last time, the high school representative on this committee was Robbie Peterson because he was the assistant principal at the high school. Robbie's now at West Marion. So Robbie can't be the high school representative on this committee. So we're going to have a new high school representative on it. So there are a few individual committee members that have to be substituted. But
There's guidelines in place to make each school represented. So that way it's not overloaded to one school.
Guidelines.
All of a sudden it's everything new and someone doesn't. So keep fair balance. There's some restrictions on that. So there will have to be some adjustments made just because of what Mr. Reed alluded to. He's at a different facility now.
And we have access to these guidelines and stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I can email you about 70-page manual if you like to read.
Don't kill me.
Yeah, I can get it to you. It's not a problem. You can look over. It breaks it down very, very well.
we can email you a copy of the previous committee members, and then we can make a notation of those folks that are going to have to be replaced based on the change of their roles and responsibilities.
and we'll have to do this again in 2019. This is just an
Absolutely.
interim. Okay.
I guess so with the money coming in, I guess we're really, I know I'm really anxious to see something. of
It's a
concrete.
process. I mean,
Right.
it's not
I
a
know.
quick process either.
I know.
I'll refer to that.
I don't have a lot of patience.
It takes time.
Well,
There's a lot of reviews that happen to this before it actually happens.
Right, okay. Right. What is it, Mr. Reed?
Maybe we ought to reconsider that chairman vote in here.
Okay. That's all. Oh,
We
no,
need to
no,
vote.
we need to vote. Call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The next item is item 9A. Need a vote.
Make a motion to approve the field trip.
A second. Any questions or comments?
I've got a comment I'd like to make. I was talking to another member of the community this week, and an issue was brought to my attention. I think the board needs to kind of work through this at some point. Most of these trips that we approve when they're out of state are student funded. A lot of times, the students are asked to pay a portion or all of their trip, and I think moving forward, we ought to see some of the financials for these trips to make sure that what the students are getting is paying for their portion of the trip. I don't know that that's been the problem in the past, but if a student's going to pay $300 to go on a beta trip, for instance, we need to know what the breakdown of that is. $50 of that is for the bus, and $100 is for the room, and $25 is for the conference registration, just so we can make sure that there's not something else going on there. I would like us to look at including that information in the future when these out-of-state trips, because we're asking the kids to pay for a lot, and the parents need to make sure that they understand and know what the money they're paying for. So I would, and maybe no one else cares, if you don't, that's fine, but I'd like to see a breakdown. When we're gonna approve a beta field trip like this, I'd like to know what the students are being charged and what that's going towards.
And I do know that, and I agree, I do know that a lot of times there's a lot of fundraising that goes on as well, and so they'll raise so much funding and take that off the top, and then what remains is kind of divided up. And if parents go, if there's a hotel room and 4 kids take the room, it kind of varies depending on, like if the parent wants to go and just have their own room, but we can do that. I'll make sure you have that information.
So that'd be really probably on the agenda then when we have it.
When I ask you, when we put a field trip on here,
Right.
I will make sure that is forwarded to you with the information.
And maybe because we're doing this is a field trip for this summer, so maybe they don't have that yet, and that's okay. But report back to us, and let us know what it is. If you're planning the field trip 6 months out and you've got to get your ducks in a row, maybe you don't know what the final costs are going to be. But once you figure out those final costs, I'd like to see it just so we can keep a track of, make sure that the students are getting what they're paying for.
Okay.
So you want to know also how they plan to raise that, because if the cost is broken down, then you want to know is half the cost going to be provided by the school or the club, and then half is going to be from the parents of the child?
I'm more concerned about when the child gets the bill that says, if my child wants to go to Orlando for the Beta Club trip and it's going to cost $250, I'd like to know that child is actually getting $250 worth of it. And if the child's getting $500, great, because they've raised something. But I just want to make sure that child is receiving $200, and that family is receiving $250 worth of benefit from that.
So just to break down on what the trip costs.
We're charging each child $200, and our actual costs are $400. So the child's paying $200, and we fundraise the rest or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Looking out there too. Okay. We'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Everybody vote. Item 9B. Need a motion.
I'll make a motion to consider approval of establishing a position for a district assistant athletic director for all middle schools.
Need a second. Are there any questions or comments?
Can we discuss why we believe this position is necessary?
Yes, ma'am. Currently, we have 2 middle schools, and we have several athletic events. Some of those take place in conjunction together, like the baseball team, the softball team, the football team, those are together. We also have some separate teams, volleyball, girls and boys basketball. Is that about right? And a lot of supervision involved, physicals, concession stands, just a lot of supervision. I have been asked, I was even approached last night about the fact that we just need some similar guidance. What's the expectation at one school? Is it similar to another school? Currently, Ms. Mann's doing her supervision at St. Charles, right now at Lebanon Middle School. We've had some change in leadership, and it's just a nice way of making sure kids are safe and that the same guidelines are used at both schools. And also, with this being a district position, this person would actually work with the high school athletic director so that we can make sure that the same rules apply. Heat index, football, you don't think about that in basketball, but heat index is very important for football practice. So just, I really believe that it's something that we need, especially right now. Obviously, we can see if this works or doesn't work. I did work with Ms. Mann and Ms. Blanford. They both agree that this position would support the work that they do so they can focus on teaching and learning. Obviously, they want to be involved with their children in athletics, but a lot of times I don't necessarily want them counting uniforms.
Is it anticipated this position would come from mean, we're gonna hire somebody and bring them in? Is this gonna be like a club sponsor type?
It's just gonna be a stipend, which would be just the same stipend that we're using right now for the current district. So it'll just be like a number, I think it's around 3,200. 3,200. I'm not asking you to hire a entire like teaching position or something like that.
So we're not hiring a new person to come in and do this. What we're gonna do is we're gonna assign responsibilities to this person, and we're going to pay them for the time they're going to do this. And this is responsibilities that we have at both schools.
Yes.
This is on a year-to-year, or?
It'll be based on if the board approves this for the budget for the upcoming 17-18 school year.
So we can try it out for the next 3 months, and if we feel like we're getting bang for our buck, then we can approve it for next year. But if we feel like this person's not busy, then we don't have to do it next year.
And I would work with Ms. Marion and Ms. Blanford to make sure that they feel like that the money, the resources are being spent wisely.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. 5 vote. Item 9C.
I move that we approve the resolution appointing attorneys to the Chenoweth Law Office and with English hourly increase.
Second.
David, second. Any questions or comments?
These are the attorneys we have used since I've been on board that we currently use. We just got to dot our i's and cross our t's.
They asked us to actually put this on the agenda.
So, I guess I have a question, is it, are we having trouble with an attorney? I mean, we've had 2 now, so are we,
These are,
is this just gonna make it easier for you to do your job then? Because one is hard sometimes to get a hold of, maybe?
these are the 2 attorneys that I've been using since I've been on the board. And we have not had a formal resolution with English, with Ms. Reese and Counseling.
Oh, okay.
So now we will have a formal resolution
Okay,
with
okay.
that.
So in future, we'll be using,
I can use both.
Either or whoever,
Either or.
whoever you get a hold of, call one.
In some cases, the first person I can get a hold of.
I know that there are guidelines that kind of encourage us to choose a different firm to do our auditing from time to time. Are there similar guidelines that encourage you to look at different attorneys or anything like that?
I'll say from personal experience, I've worked with both these attorneys. They're both very professional. They both do a good job.
And they have a lot of experience with school law.
Okay, ready to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Ayes have it. Item 7D. Consider approval of, I make a motion, to consider approval of contract with Ross Tarrant Architects for revision of district facility plan.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments?
we use them in the past?
Yes, we have. They are currently seated in the audience. They actually helped us with our local plan that we're getting ready to reconvene. Mr. Spalding and I met with them yesterday at lunch. They are willing to jump in and help us right away. They understand the sense of urgency that we have the money, folks want to see it. We've got to get the match, and they understand that we have to have a plan. Ms. Senator Higdon said, we need to know what you need. You remember what he said. He said, and obviously they can help us with that. They're very familiar with our buildings. They were gracious enough to say that we're going to do this at a reduced rate. I want everybody to know they're going to do it at a reduced rate because there is a fee associated. And once we have the ability to actually move forward, we've got the plans and we put that out for bid. They will actually take the cost of what they've done to help us thus far, and then they will subtract that from the bid. So it would actually be at no cost. So if they're selected as our architects for the project implementation. Did I say that the right way?
Yes. Now, are they on that committee then, or not?
No, they are basically like myself. They're acting as an advisor.
Oh, okay.
They're a facilitator, basically.
Oh, okay.
You're consulting.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor, you have a question?
Is Melinda gonna help us?
Yes, she met with us yesterday.
She would be here, but she had a root canal this morning.
She said it was 3 hours.
3 hours. Good. God bless her then. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Ayes. Item 10, which is actually A to M. Need a motion?
I make a motion we approve.
Need a second? Okay, now, questions or comments? I would like to say on H, that I think you did comment on that somewhat. But I guess it's so important that, I guess you're representing us in Marion County. Do you have any comments? Any more comments?
I was just, a lot of the work we've been doing about, collaboration, commitment, creativity, communication, content, it's going to be really nice. They only use 4 C's. We added 2 C's, which was commitment and content to that work. And, I was very honored to be asked to be a part of developing that. And my travel and my hotel will be reimbursed, so very little cost to the Board of Education.
Just procedurally, for the new members of the board, these consent items are items that typically don't require a whole lot of discussion, but if any board member wants to remove an item from the consent agenda and have a more substantive discussion, it's the prerogative of any board member to do that. So if we ever have something on the consent agenda that you feel like warrants a more in-depth or a more significant discussion and shouldn't be approved in bank with all the rest, then every board member has the right to ask to remove something from the consent agenda, and that'll be done.
Anytime in the future? or
Yes,
something?
yeah, anytime that you.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Next item is, I guess we don't need a motion. Do we?
That's just an acknowledgement.
Okay, so
Well, I just wanted to let the new board members know, board policy basically states that when a personnel action happens, at the next board meeting, it's my responsibility to make that knowledgeable to you. It's just making you aware. There's no action needed. There's nothing you have to do. I'm just making you aware. And that could be anything from a retirement to a resignation to a hire to a transfer, employment. So it could be a variety of different things. And we do that for certified people who have a teaching certificate or classified positions.
Not only does it not require a motion, you just took an oath that said you're not going to meddle with personnel, so we don't. We just listen.
All right, I just want to say before we, on the next item, before we do that, I want to thank the three for running, winning. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I know everybody else does here too, so thank you very much.
I'll say something for you.
Pardon me?
I'll say something.
Yes?
Yeah, family.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
want to thank,
Yeah, comment.
I want to thank every one of you because I plan on us being a team. We're a team here. It takes all of us to work the school system, so appreciate it.
Okay, next item is adjournment.
I make a motion.
Yes,
All in favor? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. Thank you very much.